Before we begin, if you're enjoying these stories from law enforcement, please take a moment to subscribe and hit that like button. It really helps us continue bringing you these accounts from the field. And I'm curious, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your location in the comments. Now, let's get into this story from the redwood forests of Northern California. My name is Harry Livingston, and I've been the sheriff of Humboldt County, California for 15 years. In that time, I've had a perfect record. Every missing person case that came across my desk, I solved. Every lost hiker, every confused elderly person wandering from a care facility, every runaway teenager, I brought them all home. 100% success rate over 15 years. That's not something you see often in search and rescue work, especially not in terrain like ours. Humboldt County is home to some of the most magnificent and unforgiving landscape in America. We've got the redwood forests, trees so tall and ancient they make you feel like an insect. We've got the lost coast, miles of rugged shoreline accessible only by foot. We've got mountains, rivers, and more ways to disappear than I can count. But I knew this land. I'd grown up here, spent my whole life learning its secrets. And I never lost anyone. Until Emma Sullivan. It was late September 2020, just as the morning fog was starting to lift when the call came in. 8-year-old Emma Sullivan had gone missing from a family camping trip in Prairie Creek Redwoods State Park. She'd been playing near the campsite while her parents set up breakfast, and when her mother called her 5 minutes later, she was gone. I arrived at the scene within 40 minutes, bringing our search and rescue coordinator, Dave Thompson. Dave was a legend in the Sayar community, with 30 years of experience in the Redwoods. He'd seen things out here that didn't make it into the official reports, and he'd taught me most of what I knew about finding lost people in impossible terrain. Emma's parents, Jennifer and Robert Sullivan, were from Sacramento, up for a weekend camping trip. Jennifer was barely holding it together, her eyes red from crying. Robert kept walking in circles, calling Emma's name even though we'd told him to save his energy. "She knows not to wander off," Jennifer said for maybe the 10th time. "We've been camping before. She knows the rules. She wouldn't just leave." I'd heard that before. Good kids, smart kids, kids who knew better, they still wandered off. The forest had a way of making you forget the rules. Dave and I organized the search grid. We had 12 volunteers from the local SAR team, plus rangers from the Park Service. The protocol was standard. Start from the last known position, work outward in expanding circles, mark everything, miss nothing. "Weather's going to turn," Dave said, looking at the sky. "We've got maybe 6 hours before the fog rolls back in heavy." We split into teams and moved out. I took the northern quadrant with Dave and 2 volunteers. The forest was dense here, the redwood canopy blocking out most of the sunlight even at midday. Ferns and undergrowth made visibility difficult, and the sound of the nearby creek masked any calls for help. 3 hours into the search, we'd found nothing. No footprints, no disturbed vegetation, no signs of passage. It was like Emma had simply vanished. I was starting to feel that familiar tension in my chest, the fear that my perfect record was about to break. That's when Dave stopped walking. "Harry," he said quietly, "we need to talk." I turned back to him. He was standing still, staring at something through the trees. I followed his gaze and saw it. A staircase, not attached to anything, not leading to anything, just a wooden staircase, maybe 8 or 10 steps, standing alone in a small clearing. It looked old, but not ancient. The wood weathered, but solid. It was completely out of place, like someone had removed it from a house and planted it in the middle of the forest as some kind of art installation. "What the hell is that?" I asked. Dave didn't answer right away. He just kept staring at it, his face pale. "Dave? We need to mark this location and move on," he said finally. "Right now. It's a staircase. Someone must have— Harry, listen to me very carefully." Dave's voice was tight, controlled. "We're going to mark this spot on the GPS. We're going to take a wide path around it, and we're not going to touch it. We're especially not going to climb it. Do you understand?" I'd known Dave Thompson for 10 years, and I'd never heard that tone in his voice before. Fear. Real, visceral fear. "What's going on?" "Later. I'll explain later. Right now, we move on." But I couldn't just move on. "Dave, if this is some kind of illegal structure, or if someone's been out here building things, it's not illegal. It's not anything like that." He grabbed my arm. "Harry, I'm serious. There are things about search and rescue in these forests that don't make it into the official training. Things the old-timers know but don't talk about. The stairs are one of them." "The stairs? You mean there are more?" "There are always more. They show up in different places, different times. No one knows who builds them or why they're here. But there's one absolute rule, and it's the only rule that matters. You never, ever climb them." I wanted to push him for more information, but the look on his face stopped me. Dave Thompson had pulled bodies out of ravines, had found lost children hypothermic and dying, had dealt with bear attacks and drownings and every kind of horror the forest could produce. And he was scared of a staircase. We marked the location and moved on, circling wide around the clearing. For the rest of the afternoon, Dave wouldn't talk about it. He just kept searching, methodical and focused, but I could see him glancing back toward where we'd marked the stairs. By evening, we'd found nothing. No trace of Emma Sullivan. The fog was rolling in thick, and we had to call off the search until morning. Jennifer Sullivan broke down completely when I told her. Robert just stared at me with hollow eyes. "You'll find her tomorrow," he said. It wasn't a question. It was a desperate statement of faith. I wanted to tell him yes. I wanted to promise. But for the first time in 15 years, I wasn't sure. That night, back at my office in Eureka, I pulled Dave aside. "Tell me about the stairs." He sighed and poured himself a coffee, even though it was nearly midnight. "How much do you want to know?" "Everything." "No, you don't, but I'll tell you enough." He sat down heavily. SAR teams in the Redwoods have been finding those staircases for decades, maybe longer. They show up in the middle of nowhere, no trails leading to them, no logical reason for them to exist. Different styles, different ages, but always the same thing: stairs to nowhere. And the rule about not climbing them? That came from experience. Bad experience. Dave stared into his coffee. Back in the 70s, before I joined SAR, there was a search for a missing hiker. Team found one of the staircases. Young guy, new to SAR, figured he'd climb up to get a better vantage point. He went up those stairs, got to the top, and what? He didn't come back down. Not right away. The team waited, called out to him, but there was no response. They finally went up after him, but when they got to the top, there was nothing there. Just the top platform, trees all around, and the guy was gone. He fell. That's what they thought at first. They searched the area, expecting to find him injured at the base of the stairs. But he wasn't there. Wasn't anywhere. 3 days later, he walked out of the forest on his own, 20 miles from where he'd disappeared. Disoriented, concussion. That's what the doctors thought. But here's the thing, he was wearing different clothes. Not his SAR gear, but clothes from the 50s. Old-style jeans, a work shirt that looked like it came from a museum, and he kept insisting he'd only been gone for 10 minutes, kept asking why everyone was so upset, why there were so many search teams looking for him. I felt cold despite the warm office. What happened to him? They tried to write it off as a mental break, stress, confusion, some kind of fugue state. But the old-timers knew, and they made a rule. Never climb the stairs. Mark them, avoid them, but never climb them. You think there's some kind of, portal? Dimensional doorway? I don't know what they are, but I know people who climb them don't come back the same, if they come back at all. And I know we've found them near a lot of our missing persons cases over the years. He looked at me, including some that were never solved. The implication hung in the air between us. People who climbed the stairs might not come back. And if Emma had found one. We have to go back there tomorrow, I said. Check the area around that staircase more thoroughly. Harry, if there's even a chance Emma found those stairs, if there's any possibility she climbed them, we have to check. Dave nodded slowly. Okay, but I'm going with you, and we're bringing rope. If anyone's climbing those stairs, we're doing it tethered and with backup. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about Emma Sullivan, 8 years old, curious and scared, finding a staircase in the middle of the forest. Would she climb it? Would she think it was a way out, a way to get higher and see where her parents' campsite was? Of course she would. She was 8. The next morning, we assembled a smaller team, me, Dave, and 2 experienced SAR volunteers. We hiked back to the coordinates we'd marked, following our GPS through the dense forest. The fog was still heavy, muffling sound and reducing visibility to maybe 20 yards. The staircase was right where we'd left it, standing alone in the clearing. In the morning light, it looked even more wrong. The wood was weathered but not rotting. The construction solid but old-fashioned. It looked like it had been there for decades, but there was no structure for it to have come from, no foundation, no reason for its existence. Dave set up the rope system while I examined the ground around the stairs, and that's when I saw them. Small footprints in the soft earth, child-sized, leading right up to the base of the stairs. "Dave," I called out. "I've got tracks." He came over and looked. His face went gray. Jesus, she found them. We followed the footprints. They went right to the base of the staircase, and then... nothing. No footprints leading away. No footprints at the top. Just the tracks leading to the stairs and stopping. "Maybe she didn't climb them," one of the volunteers said hopefully. "Maybe she just looked and moved on." But I knew better. I could see it in Dave's face. He knew too. "I'm going up," I said. "Harry, no. Dave, there's an 8-year-old girl missing. If there's any chance she's up there, if there's any chance the stairs lead somewhere, I have to check. And if you don't come back, then you don't send anyone else after me. You document what happened and you warn everyone else, but I'm going." Dave wanted to argue, but he knew I was right. He tied the climbing rope around my waist, triple-checked the knots, and handed me a radio. "You keep talking to me the whole way. You tell me everything you see, everything you feel, and if anything seems wrong, you come back down immediately." I started climbing. The stairs were solid under my feet, not creaking or shifting despite their age. As I climbed, I kept my eyes on the top, trying to see what was there. "Step 3, I said into the radio. "Everything looks normal, forest around me, fog heavy." "Copy that." Dave's voice came back. "Keep going." "Step 5, still normal. Can see the top now. It's just a platform, maybe 4x4, nothing on it that I can see. Roger, be careful." I reached step 7, and that's when I felt it. A pressure change, like my ears popping on an airplane. The temperature dropped suddenly, enough that I could see my breath. "Dave, I'm feeling something. Pressure change, temperature drop. Get down, right now." But I was so close, just 3 more steps. "1 more minute," I said, and climbed to step 8. The fog shifted, not blowing away, but changing. The quality of light changed too, becoming sharper, clearer. I looked down and couldn't see Dave anymore. Couldn't see the rope tied around my waist even though I could feel it. Couldn't see the forest floor. Step 9. The pressure intensified. My head was pounding, and I felt dizzy. But I could see something now at the top of the stairs. Movement, a small figure. "Emma?" I called out. The figure turned toward me. It was a little girl, about 8 years old, wearing clothes that looked wrong. Not the modern hiking gear Emma had been wearing, but a dress, old-fashioned from decades ago. But her face was Emma's face. I took the last step and reached the platform, and everything changed. The fog was gone. The trees were different, smaller, younger. The forest floor was covered in different vegetation, and standing 20 yards away, looking at me with a mixture of confusion and relief, was Emma Sullivan. But behind her, scattered through the forest, I could see other staircases. Dozens of them, each one standing alone, each one leading to nowhere. And on some of them, I could see people climbing, people in different clothes from different eras, all looking lost and confused. I looked down at myself. The rope was still tied around my waist, but it didn't lead back down to where Dave was standing. It led down the stairs to a different forest, a different version of the Redwoods. I'd climbed the stairs, and now I understood why the rule existed, because I wasn't in 2020 anymore. The question was, when was I? And more importantly, how was I going to get Emma and myself home? I keyed my radio. "Dave? Dave, can you hear me?" Static. Just static. I tried again. Nothing. Emma saw me and started running toward the stairs. Mister, can you help me? I've been trying to get down, but I can't find the way, and there are all these stairs, and I don't know which one goes home." I caught her as she reached me, and she threw her arms around my waist, sobbing. She was real, solid, here. But where was here? I looked around at the forest, at the other staircases, at the people climbing them in their old-fashioned clothes. Some of them were calling out, asking for help. Others just stood on the platforms, looking lost and confused. And I realized with growing horror that this was where the missing people went. Not dead, not lost in the traditional sense. Lost in time, in wrong versions of the forest, trying desperately to find the staircase that would take them home. Dave had been right. I should never have climbed the stairs, but now that I had to figure out how to get Emma and myself back to 2020. Before we became just another unsolved missing persons case in Humboldt County's files. I looked down at the stairs I'd just climbed. They were still there, still solid. But would they take me back to where I came from? Or somewhere else entirely? There was only one way to find out. "Emma," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "I need you to hold on to me very tight, okay? We're going to try to go back down these stairs and find your parents. I've tried to go down, but it doesn't work. It just leads to more forest and more stairs." "I know. But we're going to try together this time." I picked her up and started descending. With each step, I watched the forest around me, hoping to see it shift back to the 2020 version I knew. Hoping to see Dave standing at the bottom, rope in hand, waiting for me. But when we reached the bottom, we were still in the wrong forest, and there were no more stairs here at all, just trees and fog and the sound of water in the distance. Emma started crying again. "See, we're stuck. We're stuck forever." I wanted to tell her we weren't. I wanted to promise we'd find a way home. But I'd made 15 years of promises that I'd kept, and I was terrified that this would be the one I couldn't. I stood at the base of the stairs with Emma in my arms, trying to think logically. I was a sheriff. I'd been trained in crisis management, search and rescue protocols, wilderness survival. None of that training covered what to do when you climbed a staircase in the middle of a forest and ended up in the wrong decade. "Emma," I said, setting her down gently, "I need you to tell me exactly what happened when you found the stairs, every detail you can remember." She wiped her eyes and nodded. "I was playing near the campsite. I saw a butterfly, a big yellow one, and I followed it. Mom says I shouldn't do that, but it was so pretty. And then I saw the stairs, just sitting there, and I thought maybe someone's house was nearby. So I climbed up to look. And what happened when you reached the top? Everything felt weird, like when you hold your breath underwater and then come up really fast. And then I was here, but it wasn't the same place. The trees were smaller and everything looked different. I tried to go back down, but..." She gestured helplessly at the forest around us. "It doesn't work. The stairs just take you to more forest." I checked my watch. It was still running, still showing the correct time for 2020, but that didn't mean much if time worked differently here. I still had my radio, my phone, my GPS unit. I tried them all. The radio just produced static. The phone had no signal, and the GPS was showing my location, but the coordinates were wrong. According to the device, I was about 3 miles west of where the stairs should have been. But that wasn't possible. I'd only climbed 10 steps. Unless the stairs didn't just move you through space, they moved you through time and space simultaneously. "Okay," I said, trying to sound confident. "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to walk toward where I think the campsite should be. Even if we're in a different time, the geography should be roughly the same. If we can find the creek, we can follow it to the campground area. But what if my parents aren't there? Then we'll find other people, someone who can help us figure out when we are." We started walking. Emma held my hand tightly, and I marked our path using my knife on trees, just in case we needed to backtrack. The forest was definitely different from the one I knew. The undergrowth was thicker, the paths less worn. No signs of human presence at all, no trail markers, no cleared camping areas. After about an hour, we heard voices. I put a finger to my lips, motioning Emma to stay quiet, and we crept toward the sound. Through the trees, I could see a group of people. 4 men, wearing clothes that looked like they were from the 50s, work shirts, denim pants, heavy boots. They were standing in a small clearing, and they looked as confused and lost as we felt. One of them spotted us. Hey, you there, can you help us?" I approached cautiously. "Where are you from? What year?" The question seemed to confuse them. "What year? It's 1952. What kind of question is that?" My stomach dropped. 1952. Dave's story about the SAR worker who disappeared had been from the 70s, but these stairs had sent us to 1952. That was 68 years back from 2020. "You climbed the stairs," I said. It wasn't a question. One of the men nodded. "We're loggers, working a claim about 10 miles south. We found these weird staircases just standing in the forest." Jimmy thought it might be some kind of survey equipment, so he climbed one. When he got to the top, he disappeared. We climbed up to look for him, and now we're here, but everything's wrong. The logging camp is gone, the road is gone. It's like we've walked into virgin forest. "You haven't walked anywhere," I said. "You've traveled through time, the stairs. There's some kind of portal. They can move you to different years." The men looked at me like I was crazy. "Time travel? That's science fiction." "I'm from 2020, I said. "And she's from 2020. I gestured to Emma. "We climbed the stairs this morning. Now we're in your time, 1952. And somewhere in between, there are probably other people from other years, all of us trapped between decades." The tallest of the loggers, the one the others seemed to defer to, studied me carefully. "Prove it. Prove you're from the future." I pulled out my phone. Even with no signal, I could show them the device. I turned it on, showed them the date, the camera, the apps. They clustered around, eyes wide, touching the screen with hesitant fingers. "Jesus Christ," one of them whispered. "It's true." "We need to find more stairs," I said. "If we went backward in time, there must be stairs that go forward. We just have to find the right ones." "We've seen others," the tall logger said. His name was Frank, I learned. "Scattered through the forest, dozens of them, all over. We tried climbing a few, but they just took us to different parts of the woods. Never back to 1952 where we started. Then we keep trying, systematically. We map out every staircase we can find, and we try each one until we find the ones that take us forward." Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Mr. Livingston, I'm hungry." Right. We'd need food, water, shelter. Even in the wrong decade, basic survival needs didn't change, and it was starting to get dark. "We'll make camp for tonight," I said. "Tomorrow, we start searching for the right stairs." That night, we built a fire in a clearing near one of the staircases. The loggers had some food in their packs, dried meat and hardtack, which they shared. I contributed the granola bars I'd brought for the search. Emma fell asleep quickly, exhausted from fear and confusion. The loggers and I talked quietly around the fire. "How long do you think we've been here?" Frank asked. "In our time, I mean." "I don't know. Time might work differently. When that SAR worker disappeared in the 70s, he thought he'd been gone for 10 minutes, but 3 days had passed in his original timeline. So we could go back and find that decades have passed, or minutes, or we might not be able to go back at all." I didn't want to say it, but it needed to be said. There might not be a way home. Frank stared into the fire. "I have a wife, 2 kids. They're going to think I'm dead." "My son," another logger said. "He's only 5. He won't remember me if I'm gone too long." I thought about Dave Thompson, standing at the base of those stairs, watching me climb. Was he still there? Had he organized a search for me? Or had I simply vanished like that SAR worker in the 70s, and he was explaining to Emma's parents that I'd disappeared too? "We'll find a way," I said, not sure if I believed it. "We have to." The next morning, we started our systematic search. We'd seen at least 20 staircases scattered through this section of forest. I suggested we mark each one with a number, climb it, document where it led, and keep track of the results. The first staircase we tried led to another section of the 1952 forest. No time change. The second one took us to what looked like the same forest but with older trees. Based on the lack of any human presence and the primitive state of the vegetation, Frank estimated we might be in the 1920s or earlier. The third staircase was different. When I climbed it and reached the top, the pressure change was more intense. And when I looked around, I saw the forest had changed again. But this time, there were structures, modern structures. A trail sign, still standing but weathered, a trash can, rusted and overgrown. And in the distance, I could hear something I hadn't heard since climbing the first stairs. Cars on a highway. "I've got something," I called down to the others. "I hear cars. This one goes forward." They climbed up to join me, Emma holding tight to my hand. When we all reached the top and descended into this new version of the forest, I checked my phone for a signal. 1 bar, weak but present. And when I checked the date, the cell towers were transmitting, November 1978. "We're getting closer," I said. "This is 42 years back from 2020. We need to find more stairs, ones that go even further forward." But as we searched this version of the forest, I started to notice something disturbing. Some of the staircases were damaged, weathered beyond what I'd seen before. One had a cracked step. Another was leaning to one side, and one had collapsed entirely, just a pile of rotting wood. "They're breaking down," I said. "These portals, or whatever they are, they're not permanent. They're degrading." Frank nodded grimly. "The old-growth forest. That's what keeps them stable. The redwoods, they've been here for thousands of years. They're the anchors. But in our time, in 1952, the logging companies are cutting them down. Every tree that falls, maybe it weakens the connection between times." I realized with growing horror what that meant. If the staircases were degrading, eventually they'd all collapse. And anyone trapped in the wrong time would be stuck there permanently. No way forward, no way back, just lost in a decade that wasn't theirs. We needed to move faster. Over the next several hours of subjective time, which might have been days or weeks in real time for all I knew, we climbed staircase after staircase. We found ourselves in 1965, then 1982, then 1993. Each jump brought us closer to 2020, but never quite there. And in each time period we found more lost people. In 1978 we found a hiker named Gina Forsberg. She'd been climbing the stairs for what she thought was 2 days, but she'd started in 1978 and it was still 1978 by her reckoning. She'd been looping, climbing stairs that took her to different parts of the same year, never moving forward or back. In 1993, we found a family, mother, father, 2 children. They'd been camping in the Redwoods when their youngest found the stairs and climbed them. The whole family had gone after her, and now they were all trapped. In 2005, we found a young couple who'd been lost for what they thought was a few hours, but they'd started in 2005 and we were finding them in 1993. Time wasn't linear here. It was fragmented, broken, with pieces scattered across decades like shards of glass, and all of us were trying to put the pieces back together, trying to find our way to when we belonged. On what I calculated to be our 4th day, though I couldn't be sure, we found something that changed everything. It was a staircase, but different from the others, larger, more solid, made from redwood instead of the pine or cedar we'd been seeing. And carved into the top step, almost hidden by weathering, was a date, 2020. "This is it," I said. "This is the one that goes back to my time." Frank looked at the staircase, then at his men. "If you go up there, you'll be in 2020. 68 years after we started. You can come with us, all of you. We'll figure out what happened, explain to people, and say what? That we've been lost in time for 68 years? That we're technically over 100 years old now, even though we haven't aged?" He shook his head. "I don't know if that staircase will even work for us. Maybe it only takes people back to their own time. Maybe if we climb it, we'll just end up somewhere else. But your families are 68 years older than me. My kids would be in their 70s, if they're still alive. My wife—" He trailed off. "I don't belong in 2020. None of us do. We're from 1952, and maybe we need to find our way back to 1952. I wanted to argue, but I understood. The cruel mathematics of time displacement. Even if we got them to 2020, they wouldn't have a life there. They'd be men out of time, displaced from everyone and everything they'd known. Gina Forsberg and the 1993 family had similar realizations. They wanted to go forward to their own times, not skip decades ahead. But Emma needed to get home. Her parents were waiting in 2020. She belonged there. "I'll take Emma back," I said. "And then I'll come back here. I'll help the rest of you find your staircases, find your ways home." "Harry," Frank said quietly, "look at the stairs." I looked. The redwood staircase was weathered but solid. But as I watched, I saw a crack forming in one of the lower steps. Small, barely visible, but definitely new. "They're all breaking down," Frank said. "Maybe you get one trip. Maybe when you climb those stairs with Emma, that's it. The connection closes and you can't come back. Then I'll find another way. I'll document everything. I'll tell the SAR teams where to look. Harry." Frank put a hand on my shoulder. "You can't save everyone. You know that. You've been in law enforcement long enough. Sometimes all you can do is save who you can save." I looked at Emma, asleep against a tree. 8 years old, lost and scared, wanting her parents. Then I looked at the others, the loggers from 1952, Gina from 1978, the family from 1993, the couple from 2005, all of them displaced, all of them searching for home. If I took Emma and climbed those stairs to 2020, would I be abandoning them? Would I be leaving them trapped in wrong times forever? But if I stayed, would Emma ever get home? "We'll figure it out," I said, not sure who I was trying to convince. "We'll find a way to get everyone home." But even as I said it, I heard a crack behind me. One of the staircases we'd climbed earlier, the one that had led to 1982, had collapsed. The wood had simply given out, and the structure crumbled into a pile of rotting timber. One less portal, one less way home. The staircases were dying, and we were running out of time. Emma woke up and rubbed her eyes. "Mr. Livingston, can we go home now? I miss my mom and dad." I looked at the redwood staircase marked 2020, then at the others watching me with desperate hope in their eyes, and I realized I was going to have to make a choice that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Who gets to go home, and who gets left behind? I stared at that redwood staircase marked 2020, and then at the faces of the people around me, people from different decades, all displaced, all desperate to find their way home. The weight of the decision pressed down on me like a physical thing. "How long do you think we have?" I asked Frank, gesturing at the collapsing staircases around us. "Hours, maybe, look." He pointed to another staircase 50 yards away. I could see the wood buckling, hear the creaking as it shifted. They're failing faster now. Whatever's holding them up, whatever connection exists between these times, it's breaking. Gina Forsberg spoke up. "We should each take a staircase, split up, maximize our chances of getting home." "But we don't know which stairs go where," the father from the 1993 family said. "If we split up and choose wrong, we could end up even more lost." "We're already lost," his wife said quietly. I looked at Emma. She was watching me with those wide 8-year-old eyes, trusting me to make everything okay. I'd promised her parents I'd find her. I'd promised myself I'd never lose anyone. But I'd climbed those first stairs, broken the cardinal rule, and now I was trapped in an impossible situation. "Okay," I said, making a decision. "Here's what we're going to do. I'm taking Emma up the 2020 staircase. We're going back. But before I do, we're going to mark and document every other staircase we can find. I'll take photos, Jeep's coordinates, everything. When I get back to 2020, I'll organize a proper operation. We'll send teams, prepared teams, to find the rest of you." "And if the stairs collapse before then?" Frank asked. "Then at least I'll have tried. At least someone will know you were here, that you didn't just disappear without a trace." For the next hour, we moved through the forest as fast as we could, mapping every staircase we found. I took photos with my phone, marked coordinates on my GPS, made notes about what each one looked like. Some were weathered pine, some were newer cedar, some were ancient redwood. Each one presumably led to a different time, a different version of the forest. We found 13 more staircases in that section of woods, 13 possible portals, 13 possible ways home for the displaced people around me. But even as we documented them, I could see them deteriorating. the wood graying, cracking, shifting. One collapsed completely while we watched, simply folding in on itself and crumbling to dust faster than seemed physically possible. "The old-growth trees," Gina said suddenly. "Harry, you said in 2020 they're protected, right? The logging stopped?" "Most of it, yeah. The remaining old-growth redwoods are in protected areas." "So maybe in 2020 the staircases are more stable. Maybe if we all go to 2020, the portals there can send us back to our own times more easily." Frank shook his head. "Or maybe we end up stuck in 2020, displaced by decades with no way back. No families, no lives, no identity documents. We'd be ghosts." "We're already ghosts," the 1993 mother said. "At least in 2020, we'd exist somewhere." The argument went on, but I could see the staircases continuing to deteriorate. We were running out of time to debate philosophy. We needed to act. "Everyone who wants to try for 2020, come with me," I said. "Everyone who wants to stay and search for their own time, I understand. But we need to decide now." In the end, they all came. The 1952 loggers, Gina from 1978, the family from 1993, the couple from 2005. 15 people total, including Emma and me. All of us displaced, all of us hoping that the staircase marked 2020 would actually take us there. We approached the redwood staircase. It was larger than the others, more solid, but I could see stress cracks forming in the wood now. It wouldn't last much longer. "I'll go first with Emma," I said. "If it works, if we end up in 2020, I'll come back down and guide the rest of you up." "And if you don't come back?" Frank asked. "Give me 5 minutes. If I'm not back by then, the staircase probably closes behind me. You'll have to try the others." I picked up Emma and started climbing. The wood felt solid under my feet, but I could feel it shifting slightly with each step. The pressure change started at step 5, earlier than with the other staircases. My ears popped, and Emma whimpered in my arms. "It's okay," I told her. "We're almost there. We're going home." Step 8. The temperature dropped. The quality of light changed. Step 9. I looked down and couldn't see the others anymore, just fog and indistinct shapes. Step 10. We reached the platform, and I saw the forest of 2020. I knew it immediately. The undergrowth was the right density, the trail markers were the modern type, and in the distance I could hear helicopters. Search and rescue helicopters, probably looking for us. "Emma, we're here. We're back." I started down the other side of the staircase, and with each step, the sound of the helicopters got louder. Modern sounds. 21st century sounds. When we reached the bottom, I pulled out my radio and tried it. "This is Sheriff Livingston to any SAR unit. Do you copy?" Static for a moment, then, "Sheriff Livingston. Jesus Christ, Harry, where are you? We've been searching for 2 days." 2 days. I'd been gone for what felt like a week, but only 2 days had passed. Frank had been right about time working differently. "I've got Emma Sullivan. She's safe. We're about a quarter-mile northeast of the coordinates where you found the first staircase. Sending GPS location now." "Copy that. Multiple units converging on your position. Harry, what the hell happened up there?" "I'll explain when you get here, but Dave, I need you to listen carefully. The others, the people from other times, they're still up there. We need to go back for them." "What others? Harry, are you okay? Did you hit your head?" Before I could answer, I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. The cracking of wood, loud and final. I turned around to look at the staircase. It was collapsing. "No!" I ran toward it, but it was too late. The redwood structure folded in on itself, the wood splintering and crumbling. In seconds, there was nothing left but a pile of debris on the forest floor. The portal was closed, and Frank, Gina, the 1993 family, the 2005 couple, all of them were still on the other side, trapped in wrong times, with one less way to get home. I stood there staring at the debris, Emma holding onto my leg, while the sound of SAR teams approaching got louder. They'd be here in minutes. I'd have to explain what happened, where I'd been, why it took 2 days to climb 10 stairs and come back down. But how could I explain that I'd left 14 people trapped in wrong decades? That I'd saved one child but abandoned everyone else? The helicopter appeared over the trees, spotlight cutting through the morning fog. Within minutes, the clearing was full of SAR personnel, including Dave Thompson. He took one look at me, at Emma, at the pile of debris that used to be a staircase, and his face went pale. "You climbed them," he said. "I had to. Emma was up there." "How long were you gone, in your time?" 5, maybe 6 days. But it's only been 2 days here." Dave looked at the debris. Did you see others? Other people who'd climbed?" 15 of them. Different years, different times. I tried to bring them back, but the staircase collapsed." The other SAR personnel were checking Emma, radioing her parents, preparing for medical evacuation. They could hear us talking, but probably thought we were in shock, not making sense. Dave pulled me aside. "Harry, listen to me. When they debrief you, stick to the basics. You found Emma, you both got disoriented, you eventually found your way out. Don't mention the staircases, don't mention the time displacement. But the others are already lost. You can't help them. And if you start talking about time travel and portals, they'll think you've lost your mind. They'll take your badge. Hell, they might commit you for psychiatric evaluation." "So I just lie? Just let those people stay lost?" "You document what you saw. You tell me everything, and I'll keep records. Unofficial records. And if anyone else finds staircases, if anyone else climbs them, at least they'll know what they're walking into." He gripped my shoulder. "You did the right thing, Harry. You saved the child. That's what matters." But it didn't feel like the right thing. It felt like I'd made an impossible choice and everyone had lost. Emma was helicoptered out to a hospital in Eureka. I gave my official statement to the investigators. Found her disoriented in the forest. Both of us got turned around, managed to navigate back using the creek as a landmark. They accepted it because it made sense, because it fit their understanding of how people get lost in the Redwoods. Only Dave knew the truth. That night, in my office, I showed him everything. The photos of the staircases, the GPS coordinates, my notes about which ones led where. He studied it all silently. "You know what this means?" he said finally. "There are dozens of missing persons cases over the years, people who disappeared in these forests. Some of them might have climbed the stairs. They might still be out there, trapped in wrong times. Can we help them? Not if the portals are closing. You said they were degrading, collapsing. That one you came back through is gone. Maybe all of them are gone now. We have to check." The next day, against everyone's advice, I went back out to the forest. Dave came with me. We hiked to every location where I'd documented a staircase. They were all gone. Not collapsed like the Redwood one, but simply gone. The clearings were empty. The GPS coordinates were accurate, but there were no staircases. It was like they'd never existed. "Maybe they were never really there," Dave said. "Maybe they only exist when someone needs them, when someone's looking. And now that you've found your way back, they've disappeared. Or they've moved, shifted to different locations, different times. We both knew what that meant. The people I'd left behind, Frank and Gina and the family and all the others, they were still searching. still trying to find their ways home through a forest that kept shifting, kept changing, kept trapping them in wrong decades, and I couldn't do anything to help them. Emma Sullivan recovered quickly. She told her parents she'd gotten lost and a nice police officer found her. She didn't mention the stairs, didn't mention the other times. I don't know if she remembered any of it or if her young mind had blocked it out as trauma. Her parents were grateful. The community celebrated her return. My perfect record remained intact. But I knew the truth. I'd broken my record. I'd lost 14 people in those forests, and they were still lost, still displaced, still searching for home. 3 weeks later, on a routine patrol, I found another staircase. Different location, different style, but unmistakably the same phenomenon. Standing alone in a clearing, leading nowhere, defying all logic and reason. I stood at the base of it for a long time, staring up at the top step. The rule was never climb them. I'd learned why that rule existed. I'd seen the consequences of breaking it. But somewhere in those displaced times, Frank and Gina and the others were still searching. And maybe, just maybe, if I climbed these stairs, I could find them, guide them home, finish what I'd started. Dave's voice echoed in my memory. You can't save everyone. But I was a sheriff. I'd spent 15 years bringing every lost person home, and I wasn't ready to accept that these 14 would be the ones I couldn't save. I put my hand on the stair railing, and I heard a voice behind me. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I turned around and saw her, Gina Forsberg, the hiker from 1978, but she looked different, older, and she was wearing modern clothes, 21st century hiking gear. Gina? Hello, Harry. It's been a while. For you, at least. For me, it's been 42 years. You got home? You found your way back to 1978? She smiled sadly, in a manner of speaking. I found a staircase that took me forward instead of back. Ended up in 2015. Had to start over, build a new life. By the time I figured out how to navigate the portals consistently, it was 2020. Too late to go back to my old life. Everyone I knew was old or dead. Then why are you here? To stop you from making the same mistake twice. Those stairs, they'll take you somewhere, but probably not where you want to go. And if you're gone too long, the world moves on without you. Trust me, I know. But the others, Frank, the family, are either home by now or have accepted their new times. You can't save everyone, Harry. Dave told you that. Sometimes you have to save who you can and let the rest go. I stared at the staircase. So tempting, so dangerous. How do they work? I asked. What are they really? I've spent 42 years trying to figure that out. Best I can tell, they're natural phenomena. Places where time got folded back on itself, where the normal rules don't apply. The old-growth redwoods, they've been here for thousands of years. They've absorbed so much time, so much history, that in certain places, that time bleeds through. The stairs are markers, waypoints. They show you where the folds are. And they're dying because the trees are dying. Exactly. As the old growth gets cut down, the temporal anchors weaken. Eventually, all the stairs will be gone. The portals will close, and anyone still lost in between will be trapped forever. Then I need to climb them now, while there's still time. Gina shook her head. No, Harry, you need to accept that you did everything you could. You brought Emma home. You documented the phenomenon. You gave Dave the information he needs to help others who might stumble into this. That's enough. It doesn't feel like enough. It never does. She put her hand on mine, gently moving it away from the railing. Come on, let's go back. Let me buy you a coffee and tell you what I've learned about living in the wrong time. Trust me, it's a story worth hearing. I looked at the staircase one last time. Then I followed Gina back through the forest toward the present, toward 2020, toward a time I belonged in. Behind us, I heard the sound of wood creaking. When I looked back, the staircase was gone. The portal had closed, and I had to accept that some cases would never be solved, some people would never be found, and some mysteries would remain mysteries. Even if it meant breaking my perfect record, even if it meant living with the knowledge of the 14 I'd left behind. Gina was right. It was enough. It had to be. Gina and I walked back through the forest in silence. The morning fog was lifting, and the helicopter search teams had moved to different sectors. The official search for Emma Sullivan was over. She'd been found. Case closed. Except it wasn't closed for me. "How did you do it?" I asked Gina finally. "How did you accept being in the wrong time?" She was quiet for a moment, watching a jay hop between branches. The first year was the hardest. I kept trying to find ways back to 1978. I'd hike into the forests looking for stairs. I'd mark every temporal anomaly I could find. I became obsessed. "But you stopped." "I didn't stop. I just redirected. I realized I couldn't go back. My parents were dead by 2015. My friends were all 40 years older than me. The life I'd had was gone, so I built a new one. Went back to school, got a degree in theoretical physics, started researching temporal phenomena. If I couldn't go home, I could at least understand why." We reached my patrol vehicle. I looked back toward where the staircase had been, now just empty forest. "Did you ever figure it out? Why the stairs exist?" "Theories, not answers. The best one involves quantum mechanics and the nature of time itself. You know how redwoods can live for thousands of years?" I nodded. "Think about everything those trees have witnessed. Centuries of history, from when Native Americans lived here through the logging era to now. All that time gets absorbed into the wood, becomes part of the tree's structure. In certain places where the oldest trees stand, time doesn't flow normally. It pools, it eddies, it folds back on itself. The stairs aren't built, they're grown. They're manifestations of temporal distortion. And they're disappearing because the old trees are being cut down. Exactly. Every tree that falls weakens the temporal anchors. Eventually, there won't be enough old growth left to sustain the phenomenon. The stairs will vanish, and time will flow normally again, trapping everyone who's still displaced." "Yes," Gina opened her car door. "But Harry, here's what I've learned in 42 years of being in the wrong time. People are resilient. Frank and his loggers, the family from 1993, all the others you met, they'll figure it out. They'll build new lives in whatever time they end up in. It won't be easy, but they'll survive. We're all good at that. Do you ever regret climbing those stairs? That first time?" She smiled, but it was sad. "Every day, and never. I lost my old life, but I gained something too. I got to see the future. I got to witness history. I met you, met dozens of other people who've encountered the stairs. I'm part of something bigger now, a mystery that spans decades. That has to count for something." Over the next few weeks, I tried to return to normal sheriff work. Traffic stops, domestic disputes, theft reports. The mundane stuff that made up 90% of the job. But I couldn't stop thinking about the stairs. Dave Thompson retired a month after Emma's rescue. He'd been planning to anyway, but the incident accelerated it. Before he left, he gave me a file box. "Everything I've collected over 30 years," he said. "Reports of stairs, missing persons cases that might be connected, theories from other SAR workers who've encountered them. It's yours now." I took the box home and spent nights reading through it. Dozens of cases, hundreds of reports. missing hikers who were never found, people who disappeared and then reappeared days or weeks later with no memory of where they'd been, strange staircases documented by rangers and searchers but never officially recorded, and photos. So many photos of different staircases in different locations, taken over decades. Some looked brand new, others ancient. Some were still standing in the photos, others had clearly collapsed. One photo caught my attention. It was dated 1962, and it showed a staircase in a clearing I recognized. I'd been there just weeks ago, but in the 1962 photo, there was a person standing at the base of the stairs, an old man looking up at them with a contemplative expression. I brought the photo to Gina. "Do you recognize him?" She studied it carefully, then her eyes widened. "That's Frank, one of the 1952 loggers, but he looks old, like he aged naturally, which means he found a way to live in whatever time he ended up in. He survived. More than that, look at what he's wearing." I looked closer. Frank was wearing a park ranger uniform, a 1960s-era ranger uniform. He joined the Rangers, Gina said. Probably helped search for other lost people. He found a purpose. Over the next several months, I found more evidence of the displaced people finding their ways in wrong times. A 1985 newspaper article about a mysterious woman named Gina who'd appeared in Eureka with no identification, claiming to be from 1978. That was Gina Forsberg, arriving in the future. A 1996 wedding announcement for a couple with an unusual story. They'd met in the redwood forests, both claiming to have gotten lost and found each other. That was probably the 2005 couple, finding love in the wrong decade. Small traces, small confirmations that the people I'd left behind had survived. It didn't erase the guilt, but it helped. Emma Sullivan turned 9, then 10. Her parents sent me birthday cards each year, thanking me again for bringing her home. Emma herself sent drawings, childish crayon pictures of forests and adventures. She never drew stairs. I wondered if she remembered what had really happened, or if it had faded into a confused memory of being lost and found. Then, on the anniversary of her rescue, I received a letter, handwritten in careful child's script. "Dear Sheriff Livingston, I wanted to tell you something I've never told anyone else. I remember the stairs. I remember the other times, the other people. I remember you climbing up to find me and how scared you were. Mom and Dad think I don't remember, and I let them think that because it makes them feel better. But I remember everything. I just wanted you to know that I know what you did. You could have left me there. You could have gone back alone. But you didn't. You brought me home. Thank you. Emma." I sat at my desk reading that letter over and over, tears running down my face. She remembered, and she understood. 2 years after the incident, I was called to another missing person case. A teenage hiker lost in the same section of forest where I'd found Emma. Same search patterns, same dense forest, same impossible terrain. And during the search, I found another staircase. This time, I didn't hesitate. I radioed Dave's replacement, a young SAR coordinator named Jennifer who didn't know the old stories. "I've got something. Holding position, do not approach." I took photos, documented the GPS coordinates, and most importantly, I placed barrier tape around it. Big red letters. Danger, structural hazard, do not climb. Then I called Gina. She arrived within an hour, bringing equipment I didn't recognize. "Good call," she said, setting up some kind of scanner. "This one's active, very active, reading significant temporal distortion. Can we use it to find the missing hiker? We can try. But Harry, if she climbed it, she could be anywhere in time. We might need to climb it ourselves. Then we climb together, and we come back together." Gina smiled. You're learning. We suited up with climbing rope, radios, and GPS trackers. Gina also brought something she called a temporal beacon, a device she'd been developing with a team of physicists. If this works, it should help us navigate back to the right time. Should. Should? This is all theoretical. You're the field test. Fantastic. We started climbing. The pressure change hit at step 4, earlier than the Redwood staircase. The temperature dropped and I could feel that familiar disorientation. At the top, we found ourselves in a version of the forest that looked like it was from the 1940s. More trees, less development, no trails, and no sign of the missing hiker. Wrong time, Gina said, checking her device. We need to go down and try another staircase. We spent hours moving through different times, different versions of Humboldt County. 1955, 1967, 1989, 2003. In each one, we looked for the missing hiker, called out her name, left markers that we'd been there. And in each one we found evidence of other searchers. Old rangers, ancient SAR teams, people from different eras all looking for their lost hikers. We found her in 2011. She was sitting at the base of a staircase, crying. When she saw us, she looked up with a mixture of relief and confusion. "I just wanted to climb up and look around," she said. "I've been trying to get back down for hours, but I keep ending up in wrong places." "We know," I said gently. "Come on, we'll get you home." With Gina's temporal beacon, we were able to navigate back to 2022, to the right time. When we emerged from the stairs, the SAR teams were right there, waiting. The girl was reunited with her parents, and another case was closed. But I knew this wouldn't be the last one. As long as the old-growth redwoods stood, as long as the temporal anchors remained, the stairs would keep appearing, and people would keep climbing them, driven by curiosity or necessity or desperation. Gina and I made an agreement. Whenever a staircase was found, I'd call her. We'd document it, mark it as hazardous, and if anyone climbed it, we'd go after them. We'd bring them home if we could. We couldn't save everyone. Frank and his loggers, the 1993 family, dozens of others were still out there somewhere in wrong times. But we could save who we could save. That had to be enough. 5 years after Emma's rescue, I received another letter. This one was typed, formal, on university letterhead. "Dear Sheriff Livingston, you don't know me, but I know you. My name is Dr. Patricia Williams, and I'm a historian at Humboldt State. I've been researching the history of the redwood forests, and I've come across something unusual. In ranger reports from 1962, there's a mention of a law enforcement officer named Harry Livingston who helped search for lost hikers. The description matches you exactly, but according to records, you didn't join the sheriff's department until 1998. I'd like to speak with you about this discrepancy if you have time." I met Dr. Williams at a coffee shop in Arcata. She showed me the 1962 reports, and there I was, documented in black and white. Sheriff Harry Livingston, assisting with the search, finding a lost child, returning them safely. "I didn't write that report," I said. "I wasn't alive in 1962. "I know, but here's what I think happened. I think you're going to go back. Not yet, but someday. You're going to climb one of those stairs, end up in 1962, and help with that search. And then you're going to come back to 2027 and continue your life. But you'll have left your mark on the past." "That's impossible." "Is it? You've climbed the stairs, Sheriff. You've seen what they can do. Time isn't as linear as we think." She was right. I'd been thinking of the stairs as portals that moved you through time. But what if they did more than that? What if they created loops, tangles, knots in the fabric of history? What if I was destined to keep climbing them, keep searching, keep saving who I could save across multiple decades? If that's true, I said slowly, then somewhere in the past, there's a version of me helping the people I left behind. Finding Frank in 1962, finding Gina in 1978, finding all of them. Maybe, or maybe you already did, and you just don't remember it yet. Time travel is confusing. I left that meeting with a strange sense of peace. Maybe I hadn't abandoned those 14 people. Maybe I'd just helped them in a different time, a different way. Maybe the guilt I'd been carrying was unearned, or maybe I was just finding a way to live with an impossible choice. 10 years after Emma's rescue, I received an invitation. Emma Sullivan was getting married, and she wanted me to be there. The invitation included a handwritten note. "You gave me my life back. I want to share this moment with you." At the wedding, I watched Emma, now 18 and radiant, marry her high school sweetheart. During the reception, she found me. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for bringing me home." "You're welcome. I'm just glad you're safe and happy." "I am. But Sheriff Livingston, I need to tell you something. Last week I was hiking in the Redwoods with my husband. We found a staircase, just standing there in a clearing." My blood went cold. "Emma, please tell me you didn't." "I didn't climb it. Neither did he. We marked the location and called the rangers. But Sheriff, before we left, I looked at the top step, and there was a carving. Letters carved into the wood." "What did it say?" "It said Emma was here, 2030. She looked at me with those same wide eyes I remembered from when she was 8. I'm going to climb those stairs again, aren't I? At some point in my future, I'm going to go back." I didn't know what to tell her. Maybe she would. Maybe the stairs would call to her, the way they kept calling to me. Maybe this was a cycle that repeated, a loop that never quite closed. "If you do," I said finally, "remember the rules. Mark your path, document everything, and always have a way back. The stairs are dangerous, but they're also necessary. They're part of this place, part of the forest's history. They can't be avoided forever. Will you be there if I climb them? I don't know. But I'll try. I always try." She hugged me, and for a moment, I was back in that displaced forest, carrying an 8-year-old girl down an impossible staircase, promising her I'd get her home. I'd kept that promise, and I'd keep any promise I made in the future, or the past, or whatever tangled timeline the stairs created, because that's what I did. I searched for lost people, and I brought them home. Even if home was a complicated concept when you'd climbed the stairs. Even if found meant something different in a place where time didn't follow the rules. I was Sheriff Harry Livingston of Humboldt County. I'd been doing this job for 25 years. My record wasn't perfect anymore, but it was close. And the cases I couldn't solve, the people I couldn't save, they haunted me in the best possible way. They reminded me why I did this work. The stairs would keep appearing. People would keep climbing them. And I would keep searching, keep documenting, keep trying to bring everyone home. Because in the redwood forests of Northern California, where time pools and eddies and folds back on itself, where ancient trees hold centuries in their rings and impossible staircases appear in clearings, someone needed to be there. Someone needed to witness, to record, to search. That someone was me. And as long as the old-growth redwood stood, as long as the stairs kept appearing, I would keep climbing, one search at a time, one lost person at a time, one impossible choice at a time. It was enough, it had to be.